A young man finds himself transported to a strange new world where women vastly outnumber men. At first, he believes he's adjusted to this unfamiliar reality, but a sudden hand reaching for him suggests trouble is just beginning. An unexpected embrace from behind catches him off guard, revealing that he still hasn't grasped the unspoken rules of this place. He quietly contemplates the irony of becoming unexpectedly popular, something he never sought. A persistent woman clings to his arm, ignoring his obvious desire to be left alone. His polite refusals go unheard, and she demands his contact details as he tries to escape. Just as she attempts to slip her phone into his pocket, a voice calls out his name, offering a lifeline. A different girl intervenes, swiftly pulling him away from her relentless grasp. His rescuer, Kumi, flashes a warm smile, using their upcoming class as a convenient excuse to escape. As they hurried away, he casts a glance back, uneasy about how abruptly they abandoned her. His pursuer isn't giving up, shouting for them to stop as Kumi guides him to safety. Her expression tightens with fury, clearly outraged that she's lost her prize. Still shaken from the encounter, he feels genuine fear from the woman's intensity. Kumi calmly advises him to ignore such people, but he admits his own kindness might be part of the problem. She gently points out that his compassion often makes him a target, and he realizes her concern, though somewhat maternal, is justified. Smirking, he recognizes that her warnings are valid, understanding the peril of this unfamiliar world. He recalls that he was brought here a month ago, into a society with a staggering imbalance, about 1.5 women for every man. The female population acts boldly, and political groups advocate for polygamy. The memory of that initial shock, the terror of losing his home, lingers. He mourns the simple pleasures he once took for granted, hanging out with friends, carefree and happy. The despair he felt, convinced he'd never return to normal life, is still fresh. Yet amidst the chaos, he found allies who helped him endure, offering some solace and hope. His thoughts are interrupted when someone calls his name again. Kumi notices his distant mood, but he now senses that, in this world, even she takes notice of him. A surge of confidence wells up. Perhaps this bizarre place isn't entirely bleak. The kindness of those around him begins to reveal a silver lining, lighting a path through the darkness. Determined to make the most of his strange new existence, he resolves to embrace his reality and seek joy where he can. Kumi observes him with a tender smile, subtly revealing her deeper understanding. However, his optimism quickly fades as he realizes how naive his earlier thoughts were. Flashing back another week, the scene shifts. An intoxicated girl, fatigued from an all-night online game session, fumes over entitled male players who treat her as a prize. Her frustration bubbles over as she wanders the school grounds searching for her classroom. Her train of thought is disrupted when she overhears 2 boys casually discussing her, making audacious claims about dating her if she asked. Her face twists with fury at their blatant arrogance. Oblivious to her rage, they continue their boastful conversation, asserting they have the right to be selective. This triggers painful memories of times when men dismissed her with condescending offers of friendship. Still seething, she bumps directly into someone's back. Instead of an arrogant stranger, she looks up to see the protagonist, who gently pats her head and, misreading her collision as interest, offer her a spot as his third girlfriend. His patronizing tone sends a shiver of disgust through her, leaving her speechless. She storms into the lecture hall, overwhelmed by frustration at the sheer arrogance of men. Exhausted and defeated, she slumps over her desk, letting out a long sigh. She feels utterly hopeless, convinced she can't endure another school day filled with such disrespect. Kumi, noticing her despair, comments that she's unlikely to last much longer if she stays like this. She reminds her of their shared dream of a perfect campus life and encourages not to give up. Eager to change her outlook, Kumi states her own goal, to find a handsome boyfriend, though her friend dismisses this as naive. She then asks whom she might be interested in, prompting reflection on a society where men have all the power to choose. Her disinterest surprises Kumi, who then inquires about her own romantic interests during a game of badminton. She denies having anyone in mind and clarifies she doesn't desire a boyfriend. Her frustration stems from being constantly judged and expected to conform. She dreams of finding a kind, respectful partner, but dismisses such a perfect man as a fantasy. Her friend teases her about her unassertiveness, joking that her passivity might leave her lonely. Her gaze drifts across the crowded hall, the prospect of ending up alone weighing heavily on her mind. Yet, beneath this, there's a tiny flicker of hope that maybe, despite everything, her future isn't sealed. She watched as another young man was surrounded by a flock of girls, quietly resigning herself to a lonely fate fueled by her passive nature. After her friend had left for the day, Kumi exhaled in frustration, gazing at her phone. An unexpected notification of class cancellation left her aimless in the hallway, with no plans and no clear direction. She scrolled through various options, but her mind was blank, uncertain what to do with her surprise free time. Her eyes drifted until they settled on the lone figure of the protagonist, sitting quietly with his laptop, visibly distressed. She sensed that he was deeply troubled, despite the emptiness of the corridor around him. In her imagination, other girls might be drawn to his earnestness, yet the thought of their entitled behavior made her uncomfortable. Still, his genuine concern seemed different from the arrogance she disliked in many men. She felt that ignoring him would be wrong. A sense of curiosity urged her closer, sensing an inner strength beyond his appearance, something that made him stand out. With hesitant steps, she approached him, telling herself she had no expectations, merely offering kindness. She hesitated before asking if he was having trouble with registration. His face lit up with a warm, sincere smile as he explained that his enrollment had been delayed, and her heart fluttered at the warmth in his expression. A genuine, heartfelt smile she had never seen from a man before. Flustered, she hurriedly offered to help, instantly regretting her words, fearing he might see her as just another forward girl. To her surprise, his face brightened with pure happiness at her gesture. He cheerfully shared that he was in the same department and seemed genuinely grateful. She was left speechless at his innocence, watching as he made space on the bench for her. Her mind raced, overthinking her next move while he turned to her with a look of concern, completely unaware of her internal panic. She felt she might burst into tears under his authentic worry, but instead, her mood lightened with hope, assuming he was a helpful senior. However, he modestly corrected her. He was just a freshman like herself. Her anxiety resurfaced, terrified he would think she was interested in him romantically. Yet, he was simply thrilled to find someone to talk to. Explaining he had no friends in his class, he introduced himself as Katasato Masadu and asked her name. She struggled to steady her rapidly beating heart, edging closer as she realized his kindness was genuine. Gathering her courage, she introduced herself as Igarashi Kumi, a blush warming her cheeks as she greeted him formally, secretly smitten. He repeated her name cheerfully, and she worried her smile might be too forced. To her relief, he then showed her his class schedule, which was blank. He admitted he had no clear plan yet, sparking a bright idea in her mind. She envisioned taking classes together, dreaming of a perfect campus life side by side. Nervous and unsure, she hesitated before quietly agreeing to share the same schedule. Her nervousness was visible, and a flicker of suspicion crossed his face as he questioned her motives. Panicking, she launched into a hurried explanation of her intentions, fearing he would think she was intrusive. She felt everything was falling apart, preparing herself for rejection. To her astonishment, instead of mockery or rejection, he looked at her with genuine admiration, calling her a genius. Her surprise deepened. She wondered why he wasn't laughing at her awkward attempt at closeness. He asked if she saw this as a simple favor, worried she might be gaining nothing from the arrangement. She insisted it was a huge help, and he eagerly asked to see her schedule. Her heart fluttered with disbelief, as if she was dreaming. His grateful smile disarmed her completely, and he explained he couldn't attend classes yet, as he had to go home. When he left, a rush of joy filled her, already eager to see him the next day. For the first time, she felt genuine enjoyment in talking to a guy, her spirits high. As he prepared to leave, suddenly he paused, turning back with a hesitant expression. Tentatively, he asked if he could ask her one more favor, something that took her by surprise. Sincerely, he wondered if she would be willing to be his friend. Her cheeks flushed deeply as her heartbeat quickened at his earnest request. Her thoughts immediately contrasted his sincerity with the condescending offers of friendship she had experienced before from other men. Overwhelmed with happiness, she accepted, and his face relaxed into a relieved smile, happy he had made a friend. Watching him disappear down the empty corridor, she lingered, her gaze filled with affection. Meeting him had shifted her entire outlook on university life. When he was gone, her knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the bench, utterly overwhelmed. Her mind swirled with images of him, convinced he was the prince, her dream person she'd long imagined. With tears of bliss, she pressed her hands to her face, whispering his name softly. A newfound determination lit her eyes as she realized she must protect him from the inevitable swarm of other girls. She kept watch as he approached, his obliviousness to her feelings slightly frustrating yet endearing. As he drew near, he suddenly halted, then turned back, a tentative look on his face. With earnest sincerity, he asked her if she would be willing to be his friend, holding out a few candies into her palm. A modest but heartfelt gesture of gratitude marked his appreciation for her earlier kindness. Her radiant smile, tinged with bashfulness, sparks a flutter in her chest. Overwhelmed by his charm, she quickly calls him unfair, then swiftly masks her blush and steps forward to lead the way. The scene reveals that other girls also find themselves captivated by his considerate nature, which always seems to catch them off guard. His simple acts of kindness open a window of hope for them, a fleeting escape from cynicism, a sense of being rescued from their disillusionment. Yet, Kumi's determination only deepens. Her intense feelings fuel her resolve to win his affection. The story then shifts to the present. A month after Misato's arrival in this unfamiliar world, he reflects on how he has taken the place of a local version of himself, a recent high school graduate. His gradual adaptation to a more normal life owes much to his new guardian, Takuta Aika. She reminds him of her upcoming work shift as she prepares to head out. Aika discovered him shortly after his arrival and became a literal savior during his moment of crisis. She questions his recent habit of showering before work, which he dismisses as post-exercise cleanup. Her suspicion is evident, and she then lists a series of motherly rules, clearly concerned about the dangers he faces. He cheerfully runs off, ignoring her insistence on dropping the formal honorifics. On his way to class, he muses that in this world, the roles are reversed. Now he must be cautious, unlike in his old life. Back in the lecture hall, Kumi happily waves and calls out to him amid a sea of students. Misato searches for her, navigating through the crowd to find her familiar face. When he spots her, looking somewhat puzzled, he thanks her for saving him a seat. She responds with a victorious peace sign, flashing her charm. As he settles in, she gently tugs at his sleeve, silently expressing her companionship. With a sly, blushing smile, she suggests he treat her to a meal as a reward. Her bold request leaves him momentarily speechless, and he wonders if her affection is genuine. Before he can respond, she leans in closer, making him question whether she might have feelings for him. He quickly recovers, politely declining due to his work shift that evening. Unfazed, she suggests meeting another day, and he agrees to a meal next Monday. Kumi casually probes his schedule, noticing a pattern in his Friday shifts. Her silent celebration indicates she considers her victory secure. Her adorable reaction leaves him flustered, pondering if her charm might be a strategic move. He reflects that, in his original world, someone like her, a kind, popular girl, would have been totally out of reach. Glancing across the classroom, he assumes she has many friends she prefers to sit with. A twinge of guilt prompts him to wonder if she's certain about spending so much time together. He suggests she might enjoy more time with her own friends, but she pauses her note-taking, thoughtfully considering his words. She dismisses his concerns smoothly, explaining she can see her friends anytime at their club. He admits he's comfortable on his own, having already caught up with the class material. Her disarming smile and pointed question catch him off guard, making him wonder if he said something wrong. An awkward silence falls, contrasting with her gentle expression. Despite her innocent appearance, an unsettling feeling creeps in, as if her smile hides something more complex. Earlier scenes reveal Kumi entering the lecture hall, scanning from Sato. Sighing, she resolves to save him a seat. Approaching their usual spot, she blushes while drafting a message, nervously debating how many heart emojis to include. After careful consideration, she decides that, after a month of friendship, he wouldn't mind a small show of affection. She recognizes that what initially drew her to him was his incredible kindness. Yet she also worries because his open friendliness toward other girls makes her protective instincts stir. She vows to stay close throughout college, imagining them together, possibly in a romantic embrace, though she quickly dismisses the idea as just a fantasy. Then, a sweet message from him arrives, accompanied by an adorable cat sticker, making her blush again at his charm. Clenching her fist, she reaffirms her vow to protect him, even as doubt lingers. Reflecting on their shared moments, she feels it's finally time to take their relationship to a more serious level. Her ultimate goal becomes clear. She wants Masato to be her boyfriend. She knows she can't afford to fail and plans to wait for the right moment to confess. Her plan involves arranging an outing just for the two of them, an opportunity to learn what makes him happy outside their usual routine. Her excitement grows as she mentally envisions a date, her heart pounding at the thought. Recognizing this as her chance, she gently suggests they share a meal as a token of appreciation. He politely declines that night due to work, but she quickly proposes the following Monday, her victory celebration silent but exuberant. Her mind overflows with ideas for the upcoming date, contemplating where to go and what would excite him. Every detail spins through her head as she eagerly anticipates their time together, driven by her unwavering desire to deepen their connection. Masato, however, worries that he's taking up too much of her time and suggests she should spend more moments with other friends. His proposal surprises her, prompting her to wonder inwardly why he would think such a thing. While he insists he's perfectly fine alone, her thoughts reveal a longing to be with him constantly. She leans in so closely that her earnest question about why he would push her away leaves him momentarily stunned. He quickly clarifies that his concern was only about her wanting to spend time with other people, aiming to reassure her. Nonetheless, her insecurities spiral, convincing her that he must desire someone else and that she isn't enough. In a sudden panic, she grabs him tightly, begging him not to reject her, as he frantically offers words of comfort. With a bright, sincere smile, he states how grateful he is to have such a beautiful girl as his friend, especially since she is his only one. Those words catch her off guard, echoing in her mind long after he's gone. He gently tells her she's adorable and should have more confidence, causing her cheeks to flush as she wondered if he truly meant it. The realization dawns that he genuinely finds her cute, making her ache with happiness. Overwhelmed, she cups her face, relishing the warmth of his compliment. When he waves goodbye after class, she watches him leave, a hint of confusion flickering in his eyes over her overly joyful mood. In quiet reflection, she recognizes that her earlier worries were unfounded, as Masato never hinted at wanting anyone else. Her friend Mizuwa suddenly appears, calling her name and breaking her reverie. Kumi responds with a playful smirk, teasing Mizuwa, who quickly gets flustered. Mizuwa then questions her about the obvious love-struck look on her face, blushing as she admits she might have a crush on someone. Kumi continues to tease her, mocking her for making an innocent girl-in-love face. However, Mizuwa deftly redirects the conversation, asking about the handsome guy Kumi is always with. Now on the offensive, Mizuwa moves closer and insists on meeting him. She reminds Kumi of their pact to share news about potential boyfriends. Mizuho jokingly accuses her of skipping classes just to be near her new crush. She pouts, claiming that as a connoisseur of handsome men, she feels betrayed. Kumi bows politely, firmly refusing to introduce them, her serious expression revealing she's not joking. Internally, she vows to herself that she won't share Misato with anyone. Mizuha, sensing Kumi's unwillingness, smirks as she puts the pieces together. She calls Kumi out for overreacting with her best friend, then shifts tactics. Mizuha clings to Kumi, demanding info about other possible guys as a price for her silence. Kumi, flustered, tries to push her away, but Mizuha boldly declares she'll be the first to find her own boyfriend. Kumi accepts with a confident smirk, and Mizuha wishes her luck, turning their friendly rivalry into playful competition. Since falling from Sato, Kumi feels her world has brightened immensely, yet she admits a dark, possessive jealousy whenever other girls come near him. She suddenly realizes she would do absolutely anything for his sake. Her inner voice reveals her true nature, an intensely jealous person. Later, Misato practices alone on the basketball court, puzzled by Kumi's earlier shift but happy that she seemed content. While shooting hoops, a new, shy girl with a flower in her hair approaches him, clinging possessively and warning that she wouldn't like him spending time with other girls. The scene flashes back to Misato's arrival, showing him enjoying his quiet Friday routine, unaware that two other girls are watching him. One laments how sports are no longer just casual fun. Recalling Kumi's frantic warning about her club, Misato finds a new place to practice alone. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupts his solitude, reminding him that his alone time has ended. It's Yuka, a determined middle schooler, who challenges him for the court with a vow to finally win today. He teases her lightly, and she protests his condescending nickname. Yuka had first approached him shortly after arriving in this strange world, eager to play basketball. She discovered the court was her personal arena for training and initially felt disappointed when he offered it to her kindly. Instead of accepting, she challenged him to a one-on-one match, sparking a rivalry that grew into a genuine friendship. Smirking, Misato recognizes that currently, his height gives him an advantage. He acknowledges her impressive skill, but perceives her secret strategy for today's match will finally earn her victory. She fakes a crossover move, but he's already prepared for it, countering swiftly. She then surprises him with a clever roll, a move he hadn't anticipated, breaking his defense with rapid footwork to create an opening. A proud blush spread across her cheeks, as she believed she had finally broken through his defenses. Her triumph was short-lived, however, as he effortlessly deflected the ball, leaving her completely stunned. He caught her just in time, showing relief as she looked up in disbelief. Panic quickly set in for Yuka, realizing that their awkward position could land him in serious trouble. Desperate to diffuse the tension, he knew he needed her to move, yet he was immobilized by the situation's awkwardness. Confusion washed over him as he struggled to know how to handle the bizarre moment. Meanwhile, Yuka's face turned crimson with embarrassment, feeling disoriented and overwhelmed by how swiftly events had changed. She fondly remembered that chaotic encounter as the first time they truly exchanged words. Flashing back a month, she recalled overhearing her friends talking about love and relationships. One excitedly recounted confessing to her crush at graduation and receiving a positive response. Her friends then turned to Yuka, who denied having anyone she liked, even as they teased her. They gossiped about her wearing a bra and dismissed her classmates as immature boys. Their teasing persisted as they mocked her tall stature, leaving her flustered and self-conscious. The discussion shifted to her height, with some classmates debating whether boys even found tall girls attractive. A boy bluntly rejected a shorter girl, reinforcing the unhealthy social hierarchy in their class. Her friends continued their playful jabs, claiming her height made her stand out too much. Yuka felt her self-worth was being judged solely on her appearance, questioning if she was odd for feeling upset. Meanwhile, the boys smugly declared they found none of the girls in their class attractive. Frustrated, she decided to focus on basketball, which she enjoyed more than dealing with her classmates' immaturity. Reflecting sadly, Yuka longed simply to play her favorite sport, but her friends jokingly called her a pervert. They admitted they had joined the team only to get closer to the boys. Her cheeks flushed at their sudden accusation. They playfully recalled her reading romantic or suggestive materials during class, a claim she quickly denied. Desperately, she tried to silence them, but they threatened to reveal more embarrassing secrets. She defended herself, saying she was simply a normal girl with natural curiosities, and she liked boys, just not the immature ones around her. As the teasing continued, she insisted she hadn't met anyone who truly interested her. Desperate for a change of scene, she headed to the basketball court, only to find it already occupied. Wondering who could be there at this hour, she watched quietly from a distance, assuming it might be sharing the space. Approaching closer, she was stunned to recognize the lone player was a boy. Her surprise grew, finding it odd to see a boy practicing alone. His extraordinary speed as he darted across the court left her breathless. She was captivated, realizing his skill matched that of professional players she'd seen only in videos. Gripping the fence, she couldn't tear her eyes away from his fluid movements. When he sunk a perfect shot, she was utterly mesmerized by his effortless grace. Their eyes met unexpectedly, and she blushed, overwhelmed by how confidently he looked up close. He offered her the court with a gentle smile, and her heart pounded uncontrollably. Panic struck as she realized this might be her only chance to see him again. Confused, she called out suddenly, stopping him just as he turned to leave. Summoning her courage, she stepped forward nervously, afraid of losing the moment. Her mind raced with tentative ideas, each feeling too desperate. She could only blush and whisper that it was nothing, sighing as he prepared to depart. Self-reproach filled her for hesitating, but a newfound resolve took root. She would meet him again, determined to improve her game and find him once more. The following day, she ignored her friends' reminders about club orientation, resolutely joining the basketball team. They were bewildered by her sudden obsession. Yuka, however, was already back at the court, practicing tirelessly. Her efforts paid off when she saw him arrive, dribbling with practiced ease. She remembered the days when he hadn't shown up, fearing she might have lost her chance forever. But there he was, his shooting as captivating as when she first saw him. Watching him through the fence, her cheeks warmed with admiration for his cool demeanor. Suddenly aware of her presence, he paused and turned, having heard her approach. Her eyes widened as she realized he remembered her from before. Excitement bubbled inside her, promising she wouldn't let this second opportunity slip away. Gathering her courage, she pointed boldly and challenged him to a one-on-one game. Her unexpected challenge stunned him into silence. She instantly regretted her boldness, fearing she had overstepped. To her surprise, he accepted calmly, admitting he had been seeking someone to play against. With a confident grin, he warned her that despite her youth, he wouldn't be taking it easy. Flustered by his kindness, she struggled to process that her dream of competing with him might come true. Their match became a whirlwind of exhilarating fun, far surpassing any game she had enjoyed before. Exhausted yet exhilarated, she thanked him, wishing the moment would last forever. He praised her remarkable abilities, while she confessed that he was the first peer her age to ever defeat her in competition. Her competitive nature only brought a grin to his face, as he gently reminded her to stay hydrated after their intense match. When she admitted forgetting her drink, he casually offered to share his. She hesitated, trying to decline, but he insisted and handed her his water bottle without a second thought. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw it was already opened. The sudden realization of their unspoken connection caused her to blush and panic. Her mind spiraled, overwhelmed by the thought that his lips had touched that very bottle. She feared he might think she was strange if he discovered her fleeting, nervous thoughts. Yet her desire to take a sip from it pulled her into an internal struggle. Memories of a romantic fantasy flashed before her. Sharing a kiss with him. Begrudgingly, she tried to act casual, bringing the bottle to her lips as if it were nothing unusual. The mere idea of this act linking her to him fueled her imagination, making her entire body tingle. Suddenly, he called her name with concern, snapping her out of her reverie just as she realized she was still lying atop him. Mortified, she apologized for causing trouble, worried that her fainting might have seemed bizarre. He reassured her softly, suggesting they should head home for the day. As he patted her gently on the head, she inwardly fretted about missing her chance. Unexpectedly, he promised to return next week, catching her completely off guard. With a cheerful smile, he told her the court was again hers, his closeness making her cheeks flush deeply. He then offered her a towel, placing it on the bench and advising her to dry off thoroughly. Sensing her hesitation, he quickly explained that it was a clean one, as he had his own. Her gaze fixed on the towel, her heart pounding at the thought that it belonged to him. Her mind raced, realizing that, despite their imperfect encounter, some progress had been made. He complimented her improving technique and encouraged more confidence, saying he genuinely enjoyed their matches. With a final wave, he left her, promising to revisit the following week. His words proved to be exactly what she needed, leaving her alone on the bench in a blissful, almost dreamlike state. She buried her face in the towel he had given her, overwhelmed by the new and powerful feelings of having a crush. Clutching it tightly, her heartbeat raced uncontrollably as emotions overwhelmed her. Tears of joy and uncertainty streamed down her face, and she silently apologized for her intense feelings. The scene abruptly shifted to Mitoshi at his part-time job, while Yuka imagined herself as mischievous, contemplating the club's environment where men catered to wealthy female clients. A coworker named Sarah watched him with mixed feelings as Mitoshi moved on to serve another customer. The scene widened to reveal the name of the establishment, Boys Bar Festa, a prestigious host club. Inside, other hosts skillfully charmed affluent women entirely captivated by their performances. Mitoshi was working his shift, observing the lively exchanges between colleagues and clients. He reflected that this job was a condition for his housing, and it pained him to see his kind, senior coworker act so differently. Despite the welcoming staff, he struggled to adapt to the club's forced flattery and superficial interactions. His guardian, Aika, who was also a client, called him over, suggesting he join her since he couldn't drink with the others. Playfully, she pulled another host closer, teasing whether her current companion was enough. After politely declining her invitation, Masadu watched as her handsome partner automatically stepped in to comfort the pouty Aika. He sighed quietly with relief, seeing her focus return to her chosen host for the evening. Retreating into the back room, he reflected on his inability to flirt, which meant he rarely received customer attention. Just then, a coworker surprised him by announcing he had a request from a patron at table 3. Clarifying it was from a regular, Masadu was stunned by the sudden summon. His coworker told him to approach the private booth, where he already knew who he would see. Nerves tightened as he greeted a familiar figure, his coworker from the convenience store, Sarah. Her expression was a confusing mix of shyness and intensity. Recognizing her repeated visits, he noted she claimed to have just happened to be free. With a playful smirk, he teased her for using the same excuse last week. Sarah, much older than him, for some reason kept requesting his company, which made him feel sympathetic. She probably found dealing with clients exhausting as well. As other hosts got rowdy with their guests, Sarah sheepishly admitted she requested him. She explained she wasn't there for a drink, just that she thought they'd be a good match. He smoothly agreed, thanking her for thinking so. Giving her a charming smile, he teased that she might be right. Leaning in, he noted that despite her being hard to read, he sensed she was a kind soul. As Sarah and another host interrupt their conversation, they tease her about being utterly smitten with him. Sarah seeks to save face, explaining she was pressured by her senior and had no choice. She then points at him, insisting she only approached him because he was the least terrible option available. Her harsh words seem to have no effect, as he simply smiles and responds that he's happy regardless. He offers to pour her a drink, mentioning that even listening to her stories brings him joy. Sarah questions the sincerity of his words, assuming he's merely being polite out of obligation. Instead, he playfully counters, suggesting she's the only one who would request his company. She leans back, embraces his teasing, and admits she's the perfect client for a non-drinker like him. Watching her relax, he glances at her with affection, genuinely pleased to see her smiling. He recalls her first visit, remembering how worried he was, which makes her current happiness all the more meaningful. With a warm smile, he affirms that someone as beautiful as her truly deserves happiness. Flustered by the compliment, she quickly shifts focus, mentioning she has something to show him. Suddenly, a loud commotion from another table disturbs their intimate moment. Unfazed, Masato pulls out his phone and shows her a picture of a cute cat he recently saw. With a beaming smile, he calls the feline his angel, melting her heart with his innocent charm. The scene flashes back to a month earlier, revealing Sarah sitting in a disheartening office environment. Determined to endure her tedious job, she braces herself for the day. Her senior immediately berates her over an error in a document, questioning her competence. Sarah calmly explains she followed instructions from another manager, but her explanation is met with denial and dismissiveness. Her superior then delivers a cruel jab, hinting that her personality might be why men avoid her. Nearby colleagues gossip quietly about her recent romantic rejection, whispering that the man she liked never considered her as anything more. This leaves her humiliated and broken. Memories flood back of her first college boyfriend, who callously dismissed her feelings and admitted he had other girlfriends, shattering her confidence and heart. She questions whether her pursuit of happiness was just a desperate effort to keep up with her friends. Overcome with regret, she collapses onto her bed, angrily punching her pillow and berating herself for lowering her standards. Since that heartbreak, she's resigned herself to lonely nights and hollow comforts. Endless scrolling through social media feeds filled with happy couples leaves her numb. Her life feels like a dull, repeated cycle of sleeping, working, and passing days without meaning. Gazing into the emptiness, she questions her purpose, feeling isolated in every aspect of her existence. Her bleak routine is broken when a coworker enthusiastically suggests they all go to a bar filled with handsome men. She feels exhausted at the idea but, feeling indebted to her senior, reluctantly agrees. Her friend claims it's just to lift her spirits, hoping a night out will do her good. The coworker pulls her into an excited hug, and Sarah can only hope she might find a fleeting moment of relief. Upon entering the club, Sarah plans to make polite conversation before slipping away. She's unfamiliar with such places but wants to go along with her friend's kind gesture. A tall, light-haired host recognizes her coworker immediately, greeting her warmly. Her friend's entire demeanor shifts, and she becomes clearly smitten, flirting openly with the host. Sarah is taken aback to see her companion so bold, as she jokingly declares her full devotion. The host leads her friend away, leaving Sarah with a pang of regret longing to escape. She watches, feeling uncomfortable as her respected coworker acts flirtatiously, a different side she had not expected. Soon, a group of charming hosts makes a grand entrance, welcoming the guests officially. Sarah blushes and feels flustered by the overwhelming display of professionalism turned charm. Noticing how handsome all the hosts are, she takes a sip of her drink, attempting to convince herself this might lift her mood. But her cynicism quickly resurfaces, convinced they are secretly mocking their clients. Despite her dark thoughts, she admits to herself that the hosts maintain a high level of professionalism. With her friend absorbed in her interaction, Sarah just wishes her assigned host would arrive so she could leave early. Feeling resigned and hopeless, she slumps in her seat, caught in her cycle of negativity. Then, a host approaches her, and she prepares to make polite conversation before slipping away. Suddenly, a gentle voice addresses her as matey. She turns and sees Masato, who introduces himself formally as her companion for the evening. His innocent charm leaves her momentarily stunned, wondering if he's some kind of angel. He leans in with a kind smile, softly asking for her name. His direct yet gentle manner catches her off guard, making her blush. Shyly, she introduces herself as Sarah, and he greets her with unexpected enthusiasm. His baby-faced innocence awakens a protective instinct she didn't realize she had, leaving her unexpectedly touched by his sincerity. Sarah clung to her glass, heart still alight from the realization that men like him actually existed. His cheerful mention of having the next day free brought her a rare, innocent joy, reminding her of simpler times. Her disarming reaction, an unanticipated smile, betrayed her surprise at her own feelings. When he asked about her day off, she suddenly became aware that his naive charm was catching her entirely off guard. Feeling unexpectedly at ease, she shyly revealed her favorite pastime, gaming. Instantly, she panicked, convinced he would dismiss her as just another socially awkward girl with no life outside her hobbies. To her surprise, his eyes sparkled with honest curiosity, eager to learn more. His enthusiastic response moved her deeply, and as they exchanged recommendations for RPGs, her skeptical mind wondered if his kindness was merely a professional act. Choosing to ignore her doubts, she took a sip, determined to relish the moment as it was. Yet, as their conversation flowed, she questioned why she was opening up so freely to someone she barely knew. Later, she confided in Masadu, furious over her boss's public announcement of her recent breakup. Staring into her drink, she admitted she had lost count of her mistakes and blamed herself entirely. Masadu gently pressed her, asking if her ex had been the one pursuing her first. Sarah confessed she had naively believed he genuinely wanted a serious relationship, only to realize she'd become caught up in false hope. Memories of him asking her out lingered painfully, and she lamented not spotting warning signs earlier. With a self-deprecating chuckle, she called herself a fool for falling for his act. She remembered how she'd been blinded by the thrill of her first confession, ignoring his smug, insincere grin. As despair overwhelmed her and she sank onto the table, Masadu tried sincerely to assure her she was not to blame. She looked up bitterly, resigned to a cruel reality she refused to accept, that women had little genuine choice in such worlds. She retorted that women were denied agency, a fact she refused to accept as final. Masato's eyes hardened with genuine anger, making Sierra wonder why he was so upset on her behalf. He questioned whether societal imbalance truly made men superior and pointed out the unfairness of men receiving admiration effortlessly. Her heart clenched as she realized no man she'd met had ever shown such authentic empathy. With a soft smile, he leaned in and declared he would be honored to date a kind girl like her. His heartfelt compliment left her speechless, her cheeks burning with surprise. He bluntly called her ex a fool, emphasizing that any man would be fortunate to have someone as beautiful and caring as her. Inside, she felt him become her angel, an inspiration to become better, to deserve his kindness. Her entire world now centered on Masato, the boy whose compassion had touched her soul. Later, lying in bed, she gazed at his photo on her phone, a blissful, love-struck smile on her face. She admitted to herself that imagining life without him had become impossible. Flustered, she tried to find a flaw, teasing him by calling him lanky, only to be called out by a coworker for flirting. She quickly denied it, wishing she could keep her feelings hidden. Internally, she praised his near-perfect appearance, confessing she'd only been desperate to find something wrong with him. Overcome by embarrassment, she hid her face and apologized for teasing. When he comforted her, she tearfully apologized for feeling like a pathetic adult. He helped her up gently, jokingly inviting her to return, their hands brushing briefly. Her deepest thoughts revealed themselves, and she clung to him, openly confessing how much she liked him. Her coworker watched in surprise as Sarah admitted her possessiveness and her wish that he wouldn't see other women. Masato looked stunned by her sudden confession. She held on to him desperately, urging him to smile only for her and turn away any other patrons. He gently placed his hand over hers, reassuring her calmly that it was okay. Explaining he worked only on Fridays, he teased her about requesting him every week. Seeing her off, she silently admitted that even that was not nearly enough. If he kept being so charming, she warned, she'd be visiting every single week. Waving goodbye, her mind was flooded with the desire for more time with him. Suddenly, her coworker grabbed her arm, teasing her about the flirtation. Sarah panicked as her friend joked about her making a move while she was paying the bill. Denying everything vehemently, she wished she could undo the scene. Her friend chuckled, eager to drag her to the next outing, leaving Sarah to reflect on her own behavior. She realized she could no longer judge her friend's affection as foolish, acknowledging that lately, life had become more fun thanks to Misato's influence. She also appreciated her supportive coworker, who had been a good friend. When they parted at the train station, Sarah checked the time and realized she'd missed her last train home. Heart pounding, she saw Misato walking alone, and an obsessive urge took hold. Despite knowing it was wrong and illegal, she found herself quietly following him through the empty streets, her sense of sense and reason fading with each step. Mato suddenly halted, glancing back with a flicker of confusion that hinted he sensed something amiss. Hiding around the corner, Sarah gasped for breath, her heart pounding with fear that he might have spotted her. Clutching her chest in terror, she watched him stride away, narrowly avoiding capture. With a shaky sigh of relief, she fumbled for her bag, eyes fixed on his retreating figure as he vanished down the street. Once out of sight, her legs gave way, and she collapsed against a wall, utterly exhausted. Cradling her face, she harbored disgust with herself for sinking to the level of a stalker. Her thoughts overflowed with self-resentment for her obsessive behavior. Following his trail, she discovered his apartment door and read the nameplate, Katasato. Frantically, she saved his address to her phone, questioning her sanity yet unable to resist her compulsion. Standing outside, she heard the unmistakable sound of a shower running from inside. A strange, euphoric smile spread across her face, even as her mind reeled from the situation's tension. The idea that he was just a wall away, vulnerable and unaware, sent an exhilarating thrill through her. Fantasies of tearful confessions about her broken state floated through her mind. Overcome by obsession, she pulled out her phone and started recording herself, fully aware she had crossed a line from which there was no return. Elsewhere, Misato received a package containing belongings from a foster care home. Reflecting on his past, he remembered living in such a residence, yet some items felt entirely unfamiliar. Aika watched him scrutinize a pair of shoes, pondering the strange parallels between his former life and his current one. He speculated that he and the universe's Katasato Masadu could have somehow swapped places. Aika reassured him of her unwavering support, affirming her commitment to be his guardian regardless of his history. Grateful, Misato promised to repay her kindness after graduation, prompting a gentle smile from her. She advised him to enjoy campus life without worry, as he contemplated the strange feeling of having a parental figure. Deep inside, he hoped that his other self also found someone as caring as Aika. Realizing he was running late, Masadu checked his watch and hurriedly got ready. On the street, Kumi prepared for her long-awaited date, having pampered herself all week. When Masadu unexpectedly appeared, surprising her, she felt her cheeks grow warm. His dazzling smile instantly brightened her mood. He complimented her cute outfit, making her blush, and confessed he always thought she was adorable. Mentioning his limited wardrobe, she suggested they go shopping before the movie. The simple fact that he constantly found her cute thrilled her, even as she worried about being too pushy. He reassured her happily, offering to let her be his personal stylist. Her momentary flustered response quickly turned into confident enthusiasm as she accepted. Later, at the cinema, their shopping success was apparent. Kumi apologized for her enthusiasm, but Misato praised her taste, causing her to blush with pride. Sitting amidst their newly bought clothes, he admitted he had bought sets of clothes while she internally delighted in dressing him as she pleased. Inside the theater, noticing it was quite empty, she realized the weekday showing offered them perfect privacy. He confessed he was new to romantic movies, and she privately celebrated their solitude. As previews played, he settled in, oblivious to her blushing stare. She had chosen this movie deliberately, hoping that its romantic ambience might finally make him see her differently. Watching him intently, she wondered how he would react to her subtle touch. Hesitating briefly, she questioned whether he could forgive such a bold move. Summoning courage, she gently placed her hand over his, hoping he would accept her affection. She used the movie as an excuse to hide her nervousness, pretending to be scared so she could hold his hand. He tensed but didn't pull away, and their fingers intertwined softly. The sensation of his warmth sent her heart into a frantic beat. He tried to seem calm, yet his own pounding heart betrayed him. Sitting in comfortable silence, she hoped he'd forgive her daring gesture. After the film ended, he radiated joy, visibly moved by the romantic story. He admitted to tears, and she couldn't help but feel touched herself. His enthusiasm for exploring new genres reassured her that her plan was working. He eagerly asked for another recommendation, leaving her smiling with a mix of hope and anticipation. Blushing, she resolved to make their movie dates a regular thing, dreaming of the day they would truly be a couple. Internally, she longed to walk hand in hand with him, savoring the hope of closeness. The next day, she awoke still immersed in memories of their perfect evening. Joining her friend Miswa in the cafeteria, she was greeted with a cheerful wave after Miswa reserved a seat for her. Her friend watched her with a knowing smile as she dug into a hearty meal, sensing her happiness. With dramatic flair, Miswa proclaims, "Today marks a crucial moment for victory," leaving Kumi utterly perplexed. Kumi questions her friend's choice of a hefty katsudon bowl, a traditional good luck meal before big events. Miswa's eyes shine brightly as she unveils the real reason behind her victory feast. With theatrical emphasis, she announces her vow to succeed in love, causing Kumi to gape in surprise. Kumi quickly guesses that Miswa's crush is Ko from their club, recalling their frequent mutual gazes. Convinced she has a real chance, Miswa's confidence prompts Kumi to inquire whether she plans to confess soon. Miswa reacts defensively, telling her friend not to mock her just because her own love life is thriving. Kumi's smug grin only makes Miswa more flustered. Confidently, Kumi suggests they could double date in the future, but Miswa worries such bold plans might be tempting fate. Wise beyond her years, Kumi advises that destiny waits for nobody. Inspired by her friend's words, Miswa suddenly springs to her feet, determined to confess immediately. As she rushes away, Kumi watches quietly, wondering if her impulsive move will turn out well. Recalling her friend's long history of rejections, Kumi considers the risks, but Miswa dismisses her worries and shifts her attention elsewhere. Feeling uneasy about Kato, Kumi peeks through a classroom window but finds no sign of him. Unfazed, she continues her search along the deserted corridor, hoping to locate him in another room. Suddenly, her expression hardens as she halts in her tracks, her eyes narrowing in disbelief at what she observes. Peering cautiously around the corner, she remains hidden, overhearing Ko coldly telling a first-year student he's only talking out of obligation. He coldly asks her if she mistook his kindness, leaving her looking heartbroken with an apology. Kumi's eyes burn with fury at his duplicity, utterly disgusted by his callousness. He dismisses her with a curt remark, calling her confession a waste of time, and warns her to stay in her place. As her anger intensifies, her inner monologue rages, calling him a pathetic human for hurting her friend. She later laments not recording the scene as proof of his cruelty. A familiar voice interrupts her, chiding her for eavesdropping. Frustrated she missed a chance to expose him, Kumi turns to see Miswa, visibly rejected and crestfallen. Miswa collapses into tears, her confession ending in disaster. Yet she quickly recovers, expressing her disappointment but also her hope that she might still have a chance someday. Kumi offers her warmth and reassurance, affirming that she deserves someone better. She suggests Miswa head to her next class before the bell rings. Miswa puts on a brave face, urging her friend not to keep her own boyfriend waiting, and departs to cool down. Kumi reflects on Miswa's unwavering positivity and kindness, even amidst heartbreak, wishing only for her happiness. Later, Kumi finds her seat in the classroom, noticing Masadu already there. She peeks inside and sees him surrounded by other girls, one of whom boldly confesses her feelings. Kumi joins him, thanking him for saving her a seat. He hands her class notes and smiles warmly, saying he's returning the favor because she always looks out for him. Her heart pounds as she compares her strong feelings with those of the other girls. She admires his perfection, believing him to be an angelic figure. But her thoughts darken when she considers the person responsible for hurting Mizwa. A surge of anger wells up, vowing never to forgive Ko for his deception. Masadu notices her sudden shift, asking with concern what's wrong. Upon hearing her story, his face contorts with disgust and outrage. Kumi knows her friend is too kind-hearted to expose Ko, despite her desire to do so. She observes Ko continuing to fool everyone with his charming yet fake persona, realizing that his popularity makes it unlikely anyone would believe her. Helpless, she clenches her fist, frustrated over her inability to bring him justice. She concludes that their best revenge is to live more joyfully than he ever could. Masadu smirks, suggesting Mizwa's greatest victory would be to find someone who truly values her, far better than Ko. Her fist tightens as she agrees, the idea of poetic justice settling in her mind. Sitting peacefully once more, she wishes only for her friend's happiness, understanding how important Mizwa is to her. A warm memory flashes of their joyful walks together, reaffirming the depth of their bond. With a sincere smile, she thinks of her best friend and how much she treasures her. Later, walking alone, she reaffirms that Mizwa remains her most precious companion. Her reflection is violently disrupted when someone shoves her from behind, shouting angrily. She falls, tears brimming, overwhelmed by the sudden assault. Her gaze falls upon polished dress shoes standing steadily before her, a sign of her unseen attacker. A calm voice asks if she's all right, contrasting sharply with the violence she experienced. In a flashback, it's revealed that Masadu was the one who found her. As she contemplates her hopes for her friend's happiness, her mind drifts to an idealized vision of love, something beautiful and pure. She recalls her younger self's longing to experience that exhilarating feeling of falling in love, a dream she still holds close. Her romantic ideals had been shaped by countless stories and films that painted love as an endlessly beautiful experience. Yet, in reality, she found herself questioning what love truly meant. She confessed to finding some men attractive, but never felt the intense, racing heartbeat she longed for. Instead, she was burdened by the pressure to accept someone who was simply good enough. Convinced this was her only option. Desperate to be noticed, she threw herself into relationships, believing her efforts were the only way to gain affection. Kumi watched as a boy cruelly dismissed her friend's feelings, his arrogance seeming to say he couldn't be bothered with others' emotions. She briefly felt relief when her other friend, who had been rejected, walked away unnoticed. Mizwa, to her surprise, said she wasn't angry. She partly understood. She admitted she hadn't truly wanted to date that boy, only eager for a boyfriend to fill a void. Quickly, Mizwa spun the story playfully, expressing envy of Kumi's love life, her tone light but revealing underlying feelings of insecurity. Listening, Kumi felt a pang of guilt, recognizing her own insecure thoughts mirrored Mizwa's. She tried to keep the mood lively, joking about stirring up drama for Mizwa's next romantic pursuit. With renewed enthusiasm, she declared it was time to find Mizwa a better boyfriend. Yet, the memory of Ko's harsh words haunted her, unsettling her confidence. Her composure broke as she sank to the ground, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. Tears streamed down her face as she battled feelings of inadequacy and frustration. Later, she dismissed her emotional breakdown as motion sickness, a flimsy excuse for her inner chaos. Self-critical, she scolded herself for showing weakness, for letting someone else's cruelty so deeply affect her. In her search for relief, she hurried through the station, grateful her anonymity shielded her from the scrutinizing eyes of strangers. She questioned her sanity, bewildered by how devastated she felt over a rejection that wasn't even hers. With a bitter smile, she acknowledged her fragile mental state. If a few cruel words could undo her, she believed her strength was far weaker than she thought. Her reflection was cut short when she suddenly stopped, wiping away a tear. She realized she was no longer alone. Her quiet moment was abruptly interrupted by a forceful push that made her stumble forward. The girl responsible scolded her harshly, causing Kumi to fall and recoil from the impact, her vision blurring as her contact lenses popped out. Desperately, She apologized to the crowd, explaining her situation, while she scrambled helplessly on the ground. The girl who had shoved her and her friends simply watched and whispered among themselves. Feeling humiliated, Kumi sensed all her vulnerability was on full display. Then, a kind voice broke through her despair, asking if she was okay. Looking up with tear-filled eyes, she saw Masadu. Her image of him as her personal angel solidified in her mind. Kneeling beside her, he offered to help find her lost lenses. Overcome with emotion, she tearfully thanked him, her blurry sight keeping her from recognizing the kindness in his face. A flush of embarrassment spread across her cheeks as she realized how exposed she was. His genuine concern and steady effort felt almost surreal. Mortified by her tear-streaked face, she attempted to hide her frailty, convinced she must look pathetic. She was stunned that anyone would stop to help someone in such a weak state, which only made her feel worse. Her frantic heartbeat seemingly deafened her as the world faded away. As they both searched, their hands brushed mere inches apart, creating a silent, unspoken connection. In that moment, the noisy station and its judging eyes seemed to vanish, leaving only her and Masadu intertwined in silent understanding. The girls who had shoved her walked away, indifferent, leaving them to continue their search alone. Finally, Masadu broke the silence, triumphantly holding up her tiny contact lens with visible relief. Genuine happiness shone in his face as he expressed gladness at having found it. Carefully, he handed it back, and she stared, still overwhelmed by his unexpected kindness. With a gentle smile, he advised her to be careful, his concern making the moment feel even more dreamlike. She took the lens, her gratitude expressed through quiet stammering, her mind momentarily preoccupied with how much trouble she had caused herself. Realizing she could have managed with just one lens, her initial panic turned to mortification at what her rescue had cost her. Yet, Masadu remained cheerful, unaware of her internal chaos, simply pleased that she was okay. He offered to help her find a mirror, but she declined, not wanting to bother him further. With a final, kind warning to stay careful, he waved farewell and began to walk away, leaving her heart pounding. Before disappearing into the crowd, he told her to keep a handkerchief he had given her, a gesture that left her bewildered and quietly warms her heart. Panic suddenly grips her as she realizes she never asked for his name. She stands frozen, feeling completely out of control, her confidence shattered. Watching his striking figure fade into the crowd, a wave of hopelessness washes over her, leaving her alone with only a handkerchief in her trembling hand. She berates herself for her hesitation, torn by regret and frustration that she never took the chance to ask. She wishes she had her answer, his name, knowing it would have given her an excuse to see him again by returning the handkerchief. Her chest tightens from the pounding of her heart, echoing in her ears as her mind paints a vivid image of him, fueling her wonder if this surge of emotion might be love. Overwhelmed, she presses her tear-streaked face into the fabric he left her, feeling the weight of her unspoken hopes. A sudden glint on the pavement catches her eye, a lone pen, dropped perhaps by him in his haste, reminding her of the fleeting moment. The scene quickly shifts back inside the familiar atmosphere of the boys' bar festa. Masadu bursts through the door, apologizing for arriving late, carrying supplies. A coworker welcomes him back, and Mizwa, surprised, questions why he's working on a day other than Friday. She quickly reaches out, adjusting his hair, leaving Masadu puzzled by her gesture. Then, with a triumphant smile, she pulls him into a hug, proudly showing off her styling skills, confessing that a senior host helped her choose his new look. Playfully, a coworker asks Yusuke if he got hurt, noticing a mark on his neck. Yusuke proudly explains it's from his girlfriend, and Masadu reflects that this host's attitude seems the most grounded among everyone. An older host calls everyone back to work, prompting Masadu to volunteer for the simple task of restocking supplies. Internally, he admires the senior's kindness and humility, appreciating his genuine approach toward others. While tidying up the bathroom, Masato's thoughts drift back to a girl he once helped, sighing at how abruptly he had to leave her. His mind lingers on her, hoping she's doing well. Then, a scene shifts to Kumi, her face marked by deep emotion and resolve. Masadu remembers her tears, linked to her distress over losing a contact lens. After finishing his chores, he reaches for his pen to sign the work checklist but finds it missing. Just then, a coworker urgently calls him to prepare for a client, which immediately signals Sarah, his only regular. Adjusting his tie nervously, he notices she doesn't usually come on days other than Friday and worries about how his messy hair might affect her impression. Approaching her table, he calls her name. She doesn't look up, her mood noticeably forlorn. He walks confidently toward her, determined to brighten her day. Finding her alone and withdrawn, he immediately senses her distress and makes it his mission to lift her spirits. Seeing her bowed head, he guesses she's had a tough time at work again and explains that he wasn't scheduled to be on duty today, dressed casually. She reveals she saw him enter the club during an errand and nervously asks about her new hairstyle, which a senior had styled for her. He simply offers a gentle smile and nods, calming her with his quiet support. Sensing her turmoil, he encourages her to open up, creating a safe space for her to talk. With warmth in his voice, he confesses he genuinely enjoys their conversations. As always, deeply touched by his kindness, she suddenly breaks down, apologizing for her tears. She admits she saw something upsetting, but his puzzled response indicates he doesn't understand what she's sorry for. Flashbacks reveal her pain stemmed from witnessing him being kind to another girl at the station. She perceives that scene as an ideal romance, where she's merely a background character, quietly admiring him from afar. Her clenched hand symbolizes her internal struggle against this passive role she's assigned herself. Her mind spirals with denial, refusing to accept her exclusion from the story's main narrative. Clinging to hope, she convinces herself she should be the one with Masadu, recalling the other girl's disheveled state as a sign she might still have a chance. But this hope is quickly crushed beneath waves of self-reproach, as she considers her jealousy and harsh thoughts. Resigned, she admits to Masadu that she has been stalking him, knowing her actions are wrong yet unable to let go of the knowledge. Her restless mind fantasizes about confronting him about the other girl, jealous and fixated on possession. Overwhelmed by dark emotions, she clutches her head, unable to speak clearly. His gentle voice cuts through her turmoil, assuring her that everything is fine. His comforting hand on her shoulder helps anchor her in the present, and calmly he reassures her that she is not to blame for her feelings. With a gentle, trusting smile, he reaffirmed his belief that she was fundamentally good. His steady kindness overwhelmed her, pushing her to turn away with a whispered apology. Finally, she broke down, confessing everything: her obsession, her jealousy upon seeing him with another girl, and her shameful feelings of inadequacy. Overcome, she covered her face and again apologized, her internal fears revealing that she believed she might perish if he ever came to despise her. In a desperate act, she threw her arms around him, convinced she was the worst woman alive. Masato, taken aback by the sudden hug, hesitated, unsure how to respond. Her grip on his jacket betrayed her inner chaos, a silent plea for solace. He responded softly, returning the embrace gently in an effort to offer comfort and reaffirm her inherent kindness. Yet, her self-hatred intensified, as she believed she had uncovered a ruthless truth about herself. Her mind distorted his image, blaming him for her pain, and she quickly hated herself for such thoughts, realizing they were merely an escape from guilt. She blamed him for her emotional downfall, convinced that his presence had caused her to lose all control. Her thoughts darkened further, twisting into a desire not just to possess him but to destroy him entirely. Her hands on his back signaled her premeditated apology for what she felt compelled to do next. A cold, sinister smile appeared as she whispered an ominous farewell, silently vowing she would never let him go. Meanwhile, Kumi examined the handkerchief and the pen he had left behind at the station. Sitting quietly in her room, she twirled the pen, feeling an odd sense of familiarity. Her eyes widened as she recognized the logo imprinted on its side. Clutching it tightly, She was stunned to realize it was from her university. A bright smile spread across her face, and her heart fluttered with hope, wondering if their paths had crossed through their fellow students. Overcome with excitement, she collapsed onto her bed, giggling at her surprising luck. Holding the pen close, she felt a new, exhilarating emotion she had never experienced before. The scene shifted to Sarah clutching Masato, her twisted perception framing him as her destined partner. In another moment, Kumi smirked, perceiving her own destiny unfolding unexpectedly. A few days later, Mizuho listened with mild sarcasm as Kumi claimed their meeting was fate. It was shortly after Mizuho's recent rejection, and Kumi insisted she believed in true destiny. Mizuho, somewhat exhausted, just wished her worries would fade, while Mizuho explained that since the rejection, Kumi had become convinced her rescuer was her destined prince. She recalled how deeply Kumi was affected, finding it painful to watch her friend struggle emotionally. Despite her weariness from the repeated story, Mizuho admitted she was genuinely glad for her friend's newfound hope. Kumi wondered aloud if this was the first time Mizuho had truly fallen for someone. She boasted that she'd loved many since childhood but claimed this time was different. She believed she was now experiencing genuine love. Then, with a playful grin, she teased Mizuho about her skepticism, leaning in close to make her point. Eager to find her mysterious rescuer, Kumi asked Mizuho for help, jokingly calling her Watson, which annoyed Mizuho. She pointed out the obvious flaw. She didn't remember his face. Kumi explained that the university pen was a common gift for new students, making it a poor clue. She insisted she would recognize him by his hair, which she vaguely recalled was slicked back. Encouraging herself, she declared that giving up was not an option, even as Mizuho looked at her with suspicion. Kumi imagined herself as the grateful crane from a folktale, determined to repay his kindness, while Mizuho dryly remarked she was living in a fairy tale. Clutching the handkerchief, Kumi explained her plan to use it as an excuse to see her rescuer again. Her search paused when she received a message from Sato, asking her to meet him for their next class. Mizuho watched her thoughtfully, noticing the slight suspicion on her face. Kumi reflected on how she had previously kept friends away from Sato, but now felt it safe to introduce him to Mizuho. She admitted feeling guilty for isolating him, realizing her possessiveness had no doubt left him without other friends. With renewed confidence, she invited Mizuho to join her and Masato, surprising her friend. Mizuho questioned why she was suddenly allowing herself to meet the person she had been kept from. Kumi's inner voice revealed her real fear. She believed no one could resist Masato's charm for long. Despite Mizuho's rational doubt, her eyes sparkled with curiosity at the idea of meeting him. Though she put on a grumpy face, Mizuho secretly felt pleased by the unexpected invitation. Playfully, she teased that love could be ruinous, prompting Kumi to accuse her of teasing. Mizuho openly confessed she had always wanted to meet Kumi's crush, while Kumi hastily insisted they were not dating. She begged her friend to keep quiet about her feelings, but Mizuho promised to be her loyal supporter. With determination, Mizuho urged her to confess her feelings openly. Kumi dismissed her friend's advice with a laugh, telling her to mind her own business. She then sent a message inviting Masato to join them, which he quickly accepted. Relieved that Kumi still maintained her close relationship with her friends, Masato felt happy to meet her circle. As he enters the classroom, he can't help but worry that she might be isolating herself for his sake. Kumi, proud and bubbly, introduces her eager friend Mizuho to a curious Masato. As she gestures for him to approach, Masato's gaze shifts past Kumi to meet Mizuho's eyes for the first time, sensing the stories she might hold. Kumi makes a grand gesture, presenting Mizuho as her closest friend. The moment Masato sees Mizuho's calm, striking features, he's taken aback, pondering whether this world is inhabited solely by stunning women. Mizuho's stoic facade briefly cracks as she becomes visibly captivated by Masato's handsome appearance. Kumi then turns her attention to her own friend, introducing him as Katasato Masadu. Masato greets Mizuho warmly, mentioning that Kumi has spoken of her often. His friendly manner sparks an awkward silence, leaving both girls slightly flustered. Masadu quickly worries he may have come across as too casual or even awkward, sensing Mizuwa's immediate change in mood. Sensing the discomfort, Kumi calls her name with gentle concern, prompting Mizuwa to regain her composure. Blushing, Mizuwa gushes about how surprised she is to meet him after all the stories she's heard. She leans forward eagerly, confirming his good looks, which causes Kumi to blush with embarrassment. Introducing herself formally, Mizuwa offers her hand, her lively but daring personality amusing Masato. He finds her energetic attitude charming, even if her boldness surprises him. Kumi watches in mild frustration as Mizuwa playfully ignores her earlier cautions, but Mizuwa presses on with a bright smile, reintroducing herself confidently. Their hands meet as they exchange greetings, and Masato notes her tiny, delicate palm in his. That simple touch leaves him momentarily flustered, and he observes her petite frame, realizing she's even smaller than Kumi. Her cheerful yet fragile appearance sparks a strange urge to protect her, making him feel unexpectedly uneasy, almost like a pop quiz he wasn't prepared for. After class, both Mizuwa and Masato thank Kumi for sharing her notes, but she suddenly remembers she's forgotten something important. She insists they should go ahead without her, but Masadu kindly offers to wait. Mizuwa promptly volunteers to hold Kumi's bag, stepping in to help her friend as Kumi dashes back to the classroom, leaving the two alone. Masato suggests they find a bench, and Mizuwa eagerly leads the way. While waiting, Mizuwa praises his kindness for waiting, which confuses Masato, who believes that simply helping a friend is common decency. Mizuwa, however, is deeply impressed, convinced she's witnessing true gentlemanly conduct. As they sit outdoors, Mizuwa suddenly turns to him, eager to share something important. With a serious expression, Mizuwa leans in and strikes a dramatic pose, building suspense. Masato watches, surprised by her intensity, as she reveals her heartfelt wish to find her destined partner. Curious, he asks for her would-be partner's name. She vaguely mentions that her soulmate is probably a first-year student, further confusing him. To his astonishment, Mizuwa winks mischievously and admits she doesn't actually know his name. When he presses for details, she cheerfully admits she knows almost nothing except that he has slicked back hair and is approximately the same height as Masato. Mizuwa's eyes flicker with recognition as she considers his voice sounding familiar, but she quickly dismisses this strange feeling. She then pleads for his help, urging him to use his social network to find her mysterious man, reminding him he belongs to Kumi. Masato hesitates, unsure how to assist, which makes Mizuwa worry she's been too demanding. Embarrassed, Masato confesses he has no friends to ask, surprising Mizuwa, who recalls he was a recent transfer with few connections. As Kumi returns, Mizuwa quietly thanks Masato for his effort, secretly fearing she's made him uncomfortable. Despite the awkwardness, she feels a rush of fun and enjoyment. Kumi finds Mizuwa excitedly explaining Masato's lack of progress. She agrees to leave them alone, walking on with Mizuwa, who reflects on how well everyone gets along. She hopes their friendship will last. At the station, Kumi waves goodbye, feeling hopeful about her university life. Mizuwa, noticing that she and Masato will take the same train, feels a pang of guilt for leaving Kumi behind. Seizing the moment, Mizuwa questions Masato about her relationship with Kumi. He simply replies that he sees Kumi as a kind person. She presses for more, but he insists they're just friends, grateful for her kindness when he was new and isolated. Mizuwa finds his explanation hard to believe, sensing that he's oblivious to Kumi's feelings. From afar, Kumi observes them walking away, hearing Mizuwa teasing Masato as a heartbreaker, while silently wishing her friend luck. Her eyes widen in disbelief, Mizuwa's face showing her surprise. Masato notices her distress and calls out, concerned about her mood. Embarrassed, Mizuwa tries to hide her face, uncomfortable to be caught in a vulnerable moment. Ko and Satsuki approached, their conversation revealing a callous disregard for Mizuho's feelings. Satsuki comforted a distressed first year, while Ko blamed Mizuwa for the turmoil. Sensing the tension, Mizudu urged Mizuwa to leave, aiming to protect her from the situation. Ko then mocked Mizuho with words laced with contempt and malice. Mizuho struggled to regain her footing, her legs trembling as she fought back tears, determined to keep her composure despite the humiliation. Reflecting on their friendship, Mizuho felt disappointed by Kato's behavior. Inside, Mizuho resolved never to feel so helpless again. Convinced she would always be an outsider, Mizuho confronted Ko, admitting he didn't know the complete story but demanding he retract his cruel remarks. Ko's inner monologue dismissed Mizuho entirely, convinced that no one could ever want her romantically. Proudly, Mizuho claimed to be Mizuho's friend, while Ko scoffed at the idea of him being her boyfriend. Furious, Mizuho rebutted, insisting that Mizuho was truly adorable. Mizuho looked up, eyes shimmering with emotion, stunned by his fierce defense. He reiterated that, regardless of the details, Ko's comment was terribly wrong. Turning to Mizuho with a warm smile, he said she was beautiful both inside and out. Ko arrogantly claimed that her confession to him put her above others, a logic Mizuho found utterly baffling. Overwhelmed by his actions, Mizuho internally praised him as kind-hearted and wonderful. Yet her own thoughts insisted that the person she confesses to always holds the power, and that she had no reason to be upset over the rejection. Still, a deep blush painted her cheeks as she felt overwhelmed by his passionate defense. Ko sneered, questioning if Mizuho would really date her. But Mizuho retorted that he'd never compare her to someone like Ko. Frustrated by the retort, Ko could only call him an idiot. Sensing the conversation had run its course, Mizuho took Mizuho by the hand and gently pulled her away, leaving Ko and Satsuki watching as they departed. Satsuki encouraged her friend to let go and move on. As they walked down the corridor, Mizuho looked up at him, still trying to process his bold actions. When they stopped, she immediately apologized, worried she had caused him trouble. He admitted he'd acted impulsively, but she reassured him. Grateful for his intervention, she apologized again, feeling worse for pulling him into her troubles than for her own rejection. He offered to buy her a drink to cheer her up, but she panicked inwardly, remembering that Kumi liked him. A soft, envious smile appeared as she admitted she was jealous of her friend. She admired how lucky Kumi was to openly love such a wonderful person. Putting on a brave face, she laughed off the awkward moment and thanked him for his help. She confessed she wouldn't have dared to confess if she had known Ko's true nature, trying to tell herself that it was okay to feel hurt. Despite her tough exterior, she couldn't deny that no one could be unaffected by such cruel words. Mizuho gently placed a hand on her shoulder, reading her like an open book and recognizing her pain. Flustered by the emotional moment, he suddenly announced he'd buy them drinks and hurried off. Left alone, Mizuho sank to the ground just as Kumi arrived with her friends, unaware of what had just transpired. She questioned her own weakness, admitting that his kindness hurt her deeply. She knew she should suppress her feelings, reminding herself that he was Kumi's crush. Overwhelmed, she broke down, unable to contain the emotions she felt. In her mind, she apologized profusely to Kumi for betraying her friendship. Guilt weighed heavily as she recognized how complicated and how difficult love could be. The scene shifted to Friday, a day a new character eagerly anticipated. A flashback in chibi style showed a first-year student lamenting the exhausting events of the past week. A girl named Yuka clutched her basketball, hoping to play alongside her upperclassman crush that day. Her friend complained about first-years being assigned all the club chores. Yuka admitted she didn't mind, because it meant having a chance to see her crush after school. Suddenly, her friend asked where she had been sneaking off to on Fridays, leaving Yuka flustered. The friend immediately jumped to a conclusion, teasing her that her reaction meant she had a secret boyfriend. Yuka insisted their relationship was innocent, but her dreamy smile hinted otherwise. Curious, her friends decided to follow her after school to meet this mysterious boy. Yuka panicked, trying to stop them from ruining her plans, worried they'd all flock to her crush if they saw how special he was. Her thoughts were interrupted when she nervously greeted a group of second-year upperclassmen. A confident girl, arms crossed and smirking, asked if she was having fun. Yuka recognized her as her intimidating mentor, whom she disliked especially after the mentor inquired if she had a boyfriend. Annoyed, Yuka's friends guessed her secret crush must be unattractive, which only irritated her further. The mentor dismissed Yuka and left with a male student, leaving her to watch them go. Her friends came to her side, commenting on the mentor's rude attitude. Yuka secretly seethed, furious that her mentor would flaunt her boyfriend just to seem impressive. Once home, she clenched her fist, vowing never to forgive her mentor for insulting her brother. Eagerly, she looked forward to seeing her brother, confident that his presence would dissolve all her worries. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched one of his shirts, blushing while inhaling his lingering scent. Her thoughts drifted to a towel she had borrowed from him, realizing she needed to return it soon. Holding the fabric, she was suddenly overwhelmed by a wave of pure happiness, her cheeks flushing with emotion. She marveled internally at how strong his scent still was, even after washing the towel. Justifying her actions, she convinced herself that a final moment clutching it was harmless before she cleaned it properly. Her quiet reverie was shattered when her mother entered, catching her completely off guard. Calmly, her mother explained she was simply bringing a water bottle Yuka had requested, leaving her feeling mortified. After accepting the bottle, Yuka hurried off to her training, leaving her mother to ponder the weather. At the basketball court, the familiar sound of bouncing balls welcomed her as she opened the gate. She silently resolved to challenge her brother, only to be immediately distracted by his cool appearance. Turning to her with a warm smile, he was happy to see her finally arrive for their game. As she set down her bag, her thoughts wandered to their unique bond. She appreciated how he addressed her by her name directly, without formalities, seeing this as a sign of their closeness. His expression grew serious as he clenched his fist, signaling he was ready to play. Boldly, she declared she was his rival and urged him not to hold back. She winced at her overly formal tone, but he chuckled warmly, clearly amused. His radiant smile helped her feel more confident, and he cheerfully agreed to her challenge. Watching him, she was captivated by his cheerful acceptance. He announced he'd take his usual position, and she cheered inwardly, eager to start. Her happiness was intense, yet he reminded her to warm up first. Recalling her recent stumble, she nodded eagerly, finding his strictness endearing. The bounce of a ball marked the start of their one-on-one. She moved swiftly, surprising him with her speed, and with a determined jump, scored against his defense. He admitted he'd been trying to block her, impressed by her rapid improvement. Her face lit up with pride as she celebrated his praise, pumping her fists. He responded with a playful warning that she might reclaim her spot on the court. Filled with newfound confidence, she declared instantly that she would. Their game was unexpectedly interrupted by a sudden downpour, catching them both unawares. They hurried to find shelter, watching the rain soak the court. He asked if she had a towel, and she shyly nodded, her eyes wide with anticipation. Her mind spiraled into panic when she saw his rain-soaked shirt turn transparent. Flustered, she covered her mouth, overwhelmed by the sight. Confused, he called her name, wondering about her strange reaction. Looking up at the pouring rain, he agreed they'd have to pause the game. Yuka pressed her face into her towel, her breathing ragged as she fought her rising panic. She imagined how disgusted he would be if he saw her staring at him. The idea of rejection overwhelmed her. When he moved closer to check on her, she desperately tried to look away. Gently, he touched her forehead to see if she had a fever, asking if she felt okay. Her heart hammered in her chest under his close presence. He then draped his shirt over her shoulders to help her stay warm. He apologized, explaining that it was all he had to offer, and that they should wait out the rain. As they waited, her heart fluttered wildly. Clad in his damp shirt and standing close, she felt completely enveloped by his presence. Suddenly, he turned around, asking her to wait a moment and requesting she look away, only to confuse her further. Moments later, she heard a splash and rustling, and turned to see him wringing out his wet shirt, shocking her into inaction. She tried to stop him, believing he must have a spare shirt, yet he stood shirtless, asking her to wait. Terror seized her at the thought of seeing him fully exposed, so she froze. She argued silently that any girl in her place would be unable to turn away. Her gaze stayed fixed on him as he finished with his clothes, her mind racing with the idea of closing the distance. Her fantasies grew intense, believing no one would blame her for getting closer to him. Just as she was about to move, he found his spare shirt, and their hands accidentally touched. The unexpected contact made her stumble backwards onto a bench, her breath catching in her throat. A voice from her mother broke through her focus, reminding her that everything she had just imagined was only in her mind. Ultimately, she realized she was too scared to act on her feelings. The scene shifted to Yuka's basketball club, where she was praised for her skills. Her teammates gathered around, congratulating her for earning a starting position in the upcoming game. Her face lit with joy as she expressed her gratitude. However, her happiness was cut short when the coach summoned the team, reminding her of the responsibility she now carried. Determined to do her best, she prepared herself to face the challenge ahead, motivated not just by personal success, but also by loyalty to her team. Without warning, an upperclassman immediately scolds the first years, accusing them of failing to clean the gym floor properly. The intimidating mentor questions their effort, implying that their negligence could cause injuries to other teams. Despite knowing they had thoroughly mopped the floor, the newcomers are forced to redo the job. Yuka clenches her fists in frustration, sensing this is nothing but outright harassment from her seniors. The mentor singles her out, and Yuka steels herself, choosing to endure the unfair treatment silently. However, things escalate as the mentor becomes more aggressive, kicking a bench and warning Yuka not to become arrogant about her new position. She dismisses Yuka's success as favoritism from the coach, leaving the girl feeling utterly defeated. Yuka realizes that her mentor's relentless attempt to break her down stems from jealousy over a role she herself never achieved. As the senior and her friend walk away dismissively, ignoring the first years entirely, Yuka reflects on the toxic social politics that plague school clubs, leaving her exhausted. Later, arriving at the basketball court for her usual practice, she finds it eerily empty. Deciding to train alone, she tries to shake off the tension from earlier. Her recent progress and her place on the team she credits to her brother's dedicated coaching. With a shy smile, she strives to emulate his style, fueled by deep respect. She focuses intently, recalling every move of his game, and then executes complex dribbling drills with precision. With renewed confidence, she dashes down the court, eyes fixed on the hoop, leaping and sinking a perfect shot. She wipes her brow, acknowledging she still struggles with the difficult fadeaway, a move her brother performs effortlessly. Inspired by his skill, she readies herself for another attempt, determination burning in her eyes. Suddenly, a group of students arrives, and one girl smugly remarks on finding a convenient spot, drawing Yuka's attention. The group approaches, and one girl points out that Yuka is already using the court. Panic flashes across her face as she recognizes a boy in the group, wondering why he's there. Their teasing praises about her dedication make her nervous, and she greets them awkwardly. To her dismay, she realizes her friends have followed her, giving her a mixture of amusement and irritation. The mentor suggests they practice together as well, prompting Yuka to panic about her limited space. When she attempts to leave, the senior grabs her wrist with force, blocking her escape. The mentor leans in with a condescending smile, questioning her attitude with a sinister grin. The older girl insists they all must practice together, leaving Yuka with no choice but to comply. The upperclassmen tease her relentlessly, questioning whether she can handle a real game. Exhausted, Yuka struggles to breathe, her mind distracted by the relentless practice. While the seniors rest, she remains on the court, feeling drained and isolated. At last, the mentor offers her a mock match, sarcastically inviting her to join a 2-on-2. Completely exhausted, Yuka bends over, wishing for just a sip of water. The mentor commands her to start, quickly putting her on the offensive, knowing her teammate will betray her. She tries to dribble past the aggressive defenders but is quickly shut down, her legs giving out from fatigue. The mentor jeers, suggesting she should leave the team. Meanwhile, another girl points out that the mentor's boyfriend is watching with an unimpressed expression, adding to her embarrassment. The scene shifts abruptly to a team meeting where the final roster of substitutes is announced. As names are called, Yuka's anxiety peaks when someone mentions her. She remembers Ayako, a kind upperclassman who once supported her. Flashbacking to the day Ayako congratulated her for making the starting lineup, Yuka felt inspired by her encouragement, which kept her going even when she took someone else's spot. But the warmth fades as reality returns to the harsh scene of the mentor's relentless insults and Yuka's exhaustion. The senior abruptly shoves Yuka aside, causing her to fall hard onto the court. Humiliated and gasping for air, she wonders why she must endure such cruelty. Clinging to her passion for basketball, she reminds herself of the pure love that keeps her fighting. The upperclassmen loiter over her with smirks, mocking her inability to get up and questioning her skills. Lying on the ground, she admits to herself she has no strength left, unable to move. Still, a flicker of defiance sparks within her as she vows not to be broken. Tears streak her face, but her eyes burn with determination. A new voice cuts through the tension, dry, bored, yet familiar. Yuka's eyes widen in shock when she recognizes her brother, Masadu, arriving like a guardian angel. Earlier that morning, Masadu had awakened and picked up his phone, reading through messages. A recent conversation with Kumi about her softball practices made him feel proud. When he sees a message from Yuka, a protective instinct ignites within him, fueling his resolve to watch over her. He pondered this new sensation, questioning whether it reflected the true bond siblings are meant to share. Motivated by her unwavering dedication, he feared he might be outmatched by her soon and decided to get some exercise himself. Approaching the court, he was taken aback to see his sister not practicing alone but engaged in an unusual scene. The moment shifted back to the confrontation, where a senior athlete pointed out the struggling Yuka to him. From a distance, Masato watched, quickly sensing that this was no ordinary friendly practice with friends. As he observed the unfair 2-on-1 match, his unease deepened, confirming that something was seriously wrong. He hesitated by the fence, uncertain whether to intervene, worried he might misjudge the situation. That hesitation proved costly, as he saw the mentor push his sister aggressively. Enraged, Masadu stormed onto the court, his face tight with fury, as a tearful Yuka looked up with relief. The mentor and her companion confronted him, arrogantly questioning his motives and why he was interrupting their session. His glare was cold and contemptuous as he denounced their cruel form of practice. Yuka watched from the ground, her awe growing as she realized this was the first time she saw her brother truly furious. Ignoring the bullies, Masadu knelt beside his sister, offering her a water bottle and urging her to rest. He apologized quietly for being late, his concern making her blush. Despite the terrible circumstances, her heart fluttered with joy simply because he was there. The mentor then challenged Masadu, demanding his intentions behind defending Yuka. The seniors justified their actions, claiming they were testing her fitness for the team. Desperately, Yuka denied these accusations as the mentor insisted her lack of skill was the real issue. Internally, she suspected they resorted to unfair tactics because they couldn't beat her honestly. Gently, Masato asked if she could still play after resting, opening her water. Encouraging her with a confident smile, he urged her to show her true strength. He patted her head softly, and a determined Yuka nodded, accepting the challenge he set. The mentor scoffed at the apparent imbalance, but Masadu proposed a 2-on-1 game, even promising he wouldn't jump into the action. Smirking, underestimating them because of their height difference, the mentor agreed to the lopsided match. Masato laid out the stakes. If they won, the seniors must acknowledge Yuka as a starting player. Their cruel countercondition was that if they lost, Yuka would leave the team. Torn between her hard-won position and the pressure of the wager, Yuka hesitated. Masato's unwavering gaze silently conveyed his confidence in her abilities. Inspired by his trust, she clenched her teeth and reluctantly accepted the risky terms. declaring they had no intention of losing. As they prepared to start, Yuka sensed her brother had already devised a plan. The mentor and her friend immediately doubled down to block Masadu from the outset. Yuka noted their opponents were top players, but her brother remained unfazed. With remarkable speed, Masadu dribbled past both defenders, leaving them in the dust. The mentor scolded her teammates in fury, stunned by his agility. Seeing this, Yuka realized her brother's skills were extraordinary. She leapt high, timing her jump perfectly to catch his pass. Her eyes focused intensely as she secured the ball, ready to make her move. Masadu skillfully drew the defender's attention before passing to his sister. The remaining opponents scrambled to block her, but she was already ahead. Frustration etched on her face. The mentor watched helplessly as their coordinated attack succeeded. With practiced ease, Yuka sank the shot, scoring the first points of the game. Masadu flashed a confident smile, signaling their early lead with 2 fingers. The bullies stared in stunned silence, unable to counter their flawless teamwork. Though fatigued, Yuka realized playing with her brother brought her more joy than she could describe. They shared a victorious high five, their smiles radiating pure happiness. As Masadu urged her for another point, the mentor shot a glare, determined to halt their next move. Yuka understood that her brother could have scored easily but chose to trust her instead, drawing defenders away. Holding the ball, she vowed to prove her progress, determined to demonstrate that her training had been worthwhile. The mentor looked breathless and confused, unable to keep up with Yuka's suddenly sharp skills. She soared and scored another perfect shot, confirming that her effort had paid off. The mentors and her boyfriend looked on in stunned disbelief, their faces a mix of shock and frustration. The upperclassmen argued among themselves over who should defend the unstoppable siblings. Masato's praise for her shot surprised Yuka, who looked back at him with gratitude. Her friends cheered from the sidelines, impressed by their teamwork, as Yuka realized her caution had been unnecessary. Encouraged, Masadu urged her to take the lead next time, promising to support her. His unwavering trust gave her a new surge of confidence, and she eagerly accepted the challenge. The opposing players regrouped with 3 of them, now focusing on shutting her down. The mentor fumed, curious about this skilled newcomer. As Yuka faced them with a confident smile, clutching the ball, she thought of her brother as her most precious person, fueling her resolve. Yuka surged forward with astonishing speed, skillfully weaving past an astonished upperclassman. Despite her mentor's attempt to halt her movement, she deftly evaded the aggressive block, keeping the play alive. With precise footwork and a confident crossover, she demonstrated her mastery. Then, unleashing her signature move, she breezed past another senior, leaving him trailing behind in disbelief. The mentor could only watch in frustration as her fakes disoriented the defense, momentum clearly on her side. As she moved to shoot, a fellow senior leapt to block her, convinced she had made an error. But at that instant, Masadu appeared, jumping into the fray just in time. Yuka expertly passed the ball to her brother, who soared through the air to catch it effortlessly. The mentor, witnessing this familiar fadeaway shot performed with such certainty, was left speechless. Yuka, having observed her brother practicing that move countless times, knew it by heart. The ball swished through the net, earning another point for their unstoppable duo. Later, Yuka recalled the victorious moment when her team confronted her bullies, forcing even the senior girls to apologize and cease their harassment. She suspected her brother had stepped in, although he modestly dismissed her questions. Changing the subject, Masadu complimented her impressive final shot. Blushing, she insisted her prowess came from closely studying his techniques. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she thanked him sincerely, her face shining with pure affection. A sudden realization struck her. She hadn't properly expressed her thanks. She bowed deeply, thanking him for rushing to her rescue. He responded with a genuine apology, saying he'd watched her from afar before rushing in once he saw her being shoved. Expressing regret for not intervening sooner, he blamed himself for her pain. His heartfelt apology nearly moved her to tears. Masato's smile softened as he told her how glad he was to be on her team. Playfully, he praised her skills, leaving Yuka flustered and denying his compliments. With a shy smile, she admitted that simply playing with him was enough to make her happy. Suddenly, he stopped her, a serious expression catching her off guard. He gripped her wrist and leaned in, causing her to panic. Her mind spun with fantasies, envisioning this as the perfect romantic moment. She convinced herself their meeting was destined for something special, her thoughts spiraling out of control as the moment grew more intense. Yet, her romantic illusions unraveled when he simply peeled off a bandage, thanking her for having one. Her gaze dropped to her arm, puzzled. He apologized softly for not noticing her injury earlier. Just then, he was caught off guard when she unexpectedly threw her arms around him, burying her face against his chest. Her mind a chaotic mixture of feelings, she decided to reveal her emotions, even if he thought she was strange. He gently patted her head, praising her for her performance during their intense game. That simple gesture touched her deeply, making her realize how much she liked him. Standing alone on the empty court, she reaffirmed that he was the only one she saw. Clinging to him tightly, she cemented her feelings through that heartfelt embrace. Meanwhile, Masadu relaxed in his room after a long day, lying contentedly on his futon. His rest was interrupted when he remembered urgent messages needing replies. Scanning his contacts, he noticed a thank you message from Yuka, a message from Sarah, and felt a twinge of concern for Mizwa. Since arriving in this world, most of his friends had been women, including Kumi and a senior girl from a bar. Kumi's message about tutoring caught his eye, prompting him to wonder if she was helping another girl in addition to her usual students. As he gradually drifted off to sleep, he reflected that 2 months had passed since his arrival, and surprisingly, everything was going smoothly. He thought about the girls he'd met, distinct personalities, yet all kind at heart. Aika's warning to be cautious around women still echoed in his mind, but he dismissed it, feeling confident he'd handled everything well. Checking his phone one last time, he hoped his peaceful life could continue without major disruptions. Meanwhile, Yuka lay in her bed, contemplating her feelings. She admitted that her crush on Masadu brought joy but also anxiety, especially over his many female friends. She fretted about his tutoring sessions, secretly hoping he wasn't with another girl. Her impression of his obliviousness about his own charm and the mystery surrounding his Friday job intensified her worries. Clutching her pillow, she made a resolve not to hesitate when facing any potential rivals. Suddenly, a late-night notification lit up her screen. Her eyes widened as she saw the message was from Masadu. Clutching her phone anxiously, she hoped it was from a boy or a young child, fearing it might be a rival. Her jealousy surged as she imagined a confident high school girl as her main competitor. The message confirmed her worst fears. Masadu was tutoring a second-year high school student. The story then revealed that the student was Aika, who held a book and thought warmly of him. Alone in her room, she sat at her desk, her mind consumed with thoughts of their upcoming session. Meanwhile, Masadu checked his bank account, perplexed by an unusually large payment for a part-time job. He realized that both of his current missions were arranged by Aika and suspected she might be secretly assisting with his finances. His concern was interrupted when he received an unexpected call from Kumi, adding yet another layer to his busy evening. He remembered the discomfort of explaining one of his jobs, feeling utterly out of place in a boys' bar. When the phone rang, he had only mentioned his more respectable Saturday tutoring shifts. Yet her voice on the line sent a sudden shiver down his spine, startling him. Panic set in as she questioned him about tutoring a girl, her cold, emotionless tone making him wonder what he might have done wrong. After ending the call, he headed to his next appointment, bewildered by Kumi's unpredictable mood swings. He concluded that, despite believing he understood women, Kumi's combination of sweetness and eeriness revealed how much he still needed to learn. His mind drifted back to a past life when he dated girls who openly expressed their feelings. Growing up with a female childhood friend had made talking to girls familiar and comfortable. Yet memories surfaced of a girl realizing that his kindness was nothing special, simply his default universal attitude. He linked this to his upbringing in an orphanage, where kindness was a fundamental lesson shaping his worldview. He admitted to himself that, in his previous existence, he had struggled to handle relationships well, treating all girls equally without giving special attention to the one he was dating. Looking up at the sky, he felt that it might be too late to change his core nature of kindness, but he pressed on, pushing aside tangled thoughts. He arrived at a large, imposing mansion, ready to switch from reflection to his tutoring role. As he rang the bell, the gate clicked open, and a voice beckoned from inside. The woman greeting him was the girl's mother, who kindly directed him to her daughter's room. Her warm welcome felt familiar, and as he ascended the stairs, memories surfaced of tutoring Ika's friend's daughter for about a month. When he reached her door, he knocked softly, awaiting permission before entering. A young girl with wide, curious eyes peeked out, her surprise evident at his casual attire instead of his usual uniform. She was introduced as Shiori, a second-year high school student, who explained shyly that she opted for casual clothes on her day off. He offered her a charming smile, complimenting her outfit and noting how refreshing her change of style was. In turn, she modestly complimented his appearance, but he teased that it wouldn't exempt her from homework. Glancing at a book on her desk, he asked about her reading material. Her poised demeanor suggested a girl from a wealthy, refined background, a model student in the making. She explained that the book was an intriguing work by a certain author, and he was struck by its poetic opening. Her passionate enthusiasm for literature left him puzzled, and he sensed her sudden nervousness when she curtly agreed with his comments, blushing slightly. A little panic rose within him, fearing she'd seen through his attempts at relating, and he worried his words were too shallow for a girl with literary tastes. Still, the lesson was about to begin, and he focused on that. Meanwhile, Shiori remained lost in thought, marveling at the fact that such a remarkable person was in her room. She struggled with a wave of self-doubt, questioning whether she truly deserved to be around someone like him. She reflected on her own reputation as plain and awkward, a label she had once embraced. High school had dashed her dream of finding a boyfriend, as she believed popularity was monopolized by girls like her classmates, leaving little room for someone she viewed as an outsider. She convinced herself that happiness didn't depend on having a partner, justifying her single status with lofty standards she set for boys. Her escape was always her beloved fantasy novels, where virtuous heroes and heroines with clear reasons for love provided a stark contrast to her confusing reality. In her quiet moments at school, she watched her popular peers effortlessly socialize, while she remained isolated, a silent observer. Returning home, she planned to retreat into video games, but her mother stopped her on the stairs. Her envy and disappointment simmered beneath her calm exterior, feeling her real life was dull compared to her imagined worlds. Her mother quickly pressed her, asking if she'd made any friends or found a boyfriend yet. Flustered, Shiori awkwardly denied, caught off guard by the sudden interrogation. Her mother launched into her usual speech about love and future plans, mentioning she had chosen a college for her. Then, a sudden idea struck her mother. She had found a tutor from that very college, a revelation that stunned Shiori. Stubbornly, she refused her mother's suggestion from the top of the stairs, insisting she preferred studying alone and found social interactions burdensome. Once in her room, she schemed to invent an excuse to dismiss the tutor quickly, determined to avoid what she saw as an unnecessary complication. On Saturday, Shiori lost herself in a book, marveling at the flawless hero of the story. She enthusiastically kicked her feet on her bed, declaring the character a divine ideal. Her admiration quickly faded as she reminded herself that such perfection only existed within fiction. Just then, her mother announced the arrival of the tutor, prompting Shiori to scoff at the notion that a perfect person could be real. Her cynical thoughts were interrupted by a sudden wave of panic when she realized she was still dressed in her school uniform. Convincing herself it didn't matter, she dismissed her appearance, assuming the tutor wouldn't linger long anyway. A courteous voice softly addressed her from behind the door, formally calling her by name. She hesitated, dreading the long day of tutoring ahead, and reluctantly opened the door. But her annoyance evaporated instantly as her eyes landed on her strikingly handsome tutor standing in front of her. Her mother beamed proudly, describing his good looks and urging her to say hello. Overwhelmed and speechless, Shiori begged for a moment alone, slamming the door behind her as she collapsed in a flustered heap. Fuming, she silently accused her mother of trickery and vowed revenge, scurrying around her room in a panic. Her gaze fell on her clothes, gaming console, and otaku collectibles left visibly out in the open. Frantically, she covered her treasures with a blanket, trying to hide her true hobbies. Anxiety grew as she realized her room was filled with risque novels and manga she desperately wanted to conceal. Adjusting her glasses in the mirror, she admitted she had to admit the tutor was undeniably handsome. Peering cautiously out the door, she apologized softly for making him wait. He responded with a warm smile, joking that her mother's trick was to blame. Invited to sit, her mind spun with the bizarre reality of having such an attractive stranger in her bedroom. She struggled to steady her pounding heart, convinced that this was an unreal dream. As a defense mechanism, she told herself his charm must be a facade to hide a terrible personality. Barely able to speak because of her nerves, she clarified that today's meeting was simply an interview to determine if he'd be hired. Masato kindly offered an exit option, suggesting she could tell her mother her decision later if she felt uncomfortable. His considerate response disarmed her, leaving her to wonder if he genuinely was that kind. He then attempted to connect over her college choices, cheerfully assuming she loved books. Her cynical side questioned whether his kindness was superficial manipulation aimed at landing the job. When he inquired about her favorite books, panic seized her again. She was too flustered to answer, realizing she couldn't reveal her love for cheesy romance novels without frightening him away. Desperately, she lied, claiming she preferred highbrow literary fiction. He humbly admitted he also struggled with classical literature, finding it hard to enjoy. His flawless reply left her stunned, unable to believe someone so seemingly perfect could exist. Overcome by his seemingly impossible radiance, she blurted out that she had been lying all along. Justifying her bluntness internally, she believed it was a test to see his true character. She then pressed him further, questioning why someone like him would tutor a plain girl instead of a cute one. Daring him to get angry, she was surprised when he calmly said her appearance didn't matter to him at all. He pledged that her college aspirations were what truly mattered and assured her he would do everything he could to support her efforts. His sincere words left her completely speechless, as he gave her a radiant smile. He then called her a wonderful person, adding that he had thought she was beautiful from the moment he saw her. The unexpected compliment struck her like a shockwave, igniting a deep blush across her cheeks. In her mind, he transformed into a fantasy hero who had crossed dimensions just to meet her. Heart pounding, she covered her face with her hands, replaying his kind words endlessly. Later that night, she was utterly smitten by the reality that this perfect young man would visit her weekly. The image of accidental encounters flitted through her mind as she sprawled on her bed. Clutching her book, she felt utterly unworthy, convinced a prince-like figure such as Masadu could never fall for someone like her. The cover of her favorite novel depicted an ideal hero and heroine, setting an unachievable standard she couldn't reach. A sudden jolt of resolve took hold of her. Sitting upright, she stared into her mirror, painfully aware of her plain reflection. Her inner critic mocked her dreams, driving her to the realization that she must become a heroine in her own story. Inspired by her favorite characters, she begged her mother to teach her makeup techniques. From that moment, she replaced her glasses with contact lenses and let her hair down, adopting a whole new look. With renewed confidence, she prepared herself for the world outside. At school, the reactions to her transformation ranged from surprise to gossiping whispers. Standing nervously in her classroom, she felt self-conscious about her altered appearance, worried her classmates would judge her as a girl trying too hard. Her anxiety peaked when the popular girls approached her desk unexpectedly. To her surprise, one complimented her fresh style, asking if she'd undergone a makeover. Flustered yet relieved, Shiori shyly confirmed her change. As she engaged more with her classmates, she realized her initial judgment was mistaken. Opening herself up had turned acquaintances into friends. Her new friends took her shopping, helping her find charming clothes since she had none. It became clear she had been retreating from others for a long time. She now believed that her polished, modest appearance was exactly what she needed to impress Masadu. Feeling finally worthy of her hero, her thoughts were abruptly interrupted by his voice at her door. She was utterly captivated by his warm smile, struggling to hide her reaction. Noticing the book on her desk, he asked what she was reading, catching her off guard. Panicking inwardly, she remembered she had disguised her risque novel beneath a more respectable cover. Her mind revealed the book's true steamy content, causing her to break into a nervous sweat. Recognizing the fake cover's title, he cheerfully quoted its poetic opening line. Her inner panic resurfaced. She admitting to herself she hadn't actually read the book she carried. Deciding to begin his lesson, he started explaining as she nervously agreed, promising herself she'd read the other book later. Her thoughts drifted, contrasting the poetic title with the more explicit fantasies within her actual novel. The narration delved into a complex literary detail about how a character's name is pronounced. He looked at her in confusion as she closed her eyes, lost in a bubble of happiness. She quietly admitted that, despite her dislike of studying, she cherished this private moment with him. Struggling with the difficult text despite his explanations, she felt frustration and inadequacy. Determined not to be a burden, she vowed to understand the material, no matter how challenging it was. He leaned in slightly, offering to trace the passage with his finger, which only flustered her further. As he guided her through the words, she was enchanted by the sound of his voice close to her. Her panic increased once she felt his hand resting on her back as he pointed to the page. The intimate contact made her dizzy, overwhelmed by his closeness. She couldn't handle such proximity and made an excuse to leave, hurriedly rushing out of the room, leaving him puzzled. Alone, she pressed her hand to her mouth, trembling from the emotional overload. Sliding down the door, she was still overwhelmed by the phantom sensation of his touch. Her carefully crafted facade of elegance began to crumble as she scolded herself for having inappropriate thoughts about her hero. Back inside, Masadu wondered if he had unintentionally invaded her space and made her uncomfortable. Shiori clasped her chest, overwhelmed by the powerful emotions she fought to suppress. Her imagination spiraled wildly as she felt an uncontrollable desire she struggled to contain. A blissful, dazed expression spread across her face, lost in vivid fantasies. She pictured a future moment with him, longing to be close without barriers. Masato's confusion deepened, unaware of her inner turmoil, questioning if he had somehow upset her. With fierce resolve, Shiori covered her mouth and silently promised herself she would win his affection, no matter what.